among the sort of the dark red pricing. King William, 364. Accomack, 340, 341, 344, 345 for Northampton County. And then up into that Williamsburg area, still in that dark red zone, up in the high 3.9s and low 3.4s. Richmond, of course, over 3.4, one of the more populous areas. If we come down towards the south side, Naya, we'll see slightly lower prices, but not by much. 337, 340, 338 in Virginia Beach. Chesapeake, 337, 338. So you can see that the prices have indeed risen. And now we're going to kind of talk through this live on air. I believe if you click into any one of these, you can even see a more thorough breakdown, Naya. We're kind of working with this map for the first time today, courtesy of AAA. If you scroll down, Naya, I think maybe we can see, yes, okay, here we go. So let's look at these Virginia average gas prices. Let's start with a year ago. Let's just go regular for our breakdown here. $2.88 if you round up a year ago. Then 1 month ago, $2.84. So not a big change, even a little drop from a year ago to a month ago. But then you fast forward from a month ago to current, and you get $3.34. A sizable jump from a month ago to the current. A greater jump in that month than in the 11 months preceding it, from what we can see. Now, if you go over and look at diesel, you'll see the numbers even starker. A year ago, $3.62. A month ago, $3.61. Current, $4.85. So diesel, an even more stark contrast, an even more stark rise there. So as you can see, those gas prices on the way up, which I'm sure many have felt at the pump and in their wallet. And here in Virginia is the case throughout many parts of the United States, as we have seen some rises in those gas prices. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to transition into a Virginia press availability for Senator Tim Kaine that took place earlier today. We certainly expect him to touch on the war in Iran quite a bit. So let's listen in on what the senator has to say. And you know, I got to catch myself sometimes. Should we take a brief commercial break, Naya? Okay, we're going to take a brief commercial break, and then we're going to go out to Senator Kaine. We will be right back with the senator. Okay, as promised, we are going to go and listen in on Virginia Senator Tim Kaine for the time being. Let's hear from the senator.
Thanks, and thanks everybody for getting on board today. I'm just going to talk about two things: the war in Iran and tariffs, but then I want to answer all your questions. So you all know, because we talked about it last week, and I'm sure you followed my comments, I think this war is illegal, and I also think it is an absolutely horrible idea. We had a diplomatic path to a new chapter in the U.S.-Iran relationship that Donald Trump tore up in his first term in office to devastating effect. And it had many effects, both in the relationship of the U.S. to Iran, the Iranian activity in the region, but it also had some significant consequences outside the region. The U.S. tearing up a diplomatic deal that was working essentially ended any meaningful nuclear negotiations with North Korea, because why would they agree to something with the U.S. if the U.S. was going to tear it up? And so it had devastating consequences. And many of us predicted when Donald Trump tore up the deal that if you make diplomacy impossible, you're going to raise the likelihood of war. And sadly, here we are. Troops have perished. One, a Virginian, more than 100 have been injured, some severely, and the White House still cannot advance a good reason why they've taken this step. Iran is definitely a problem in the region, but they pose no imminent threat to the United States that warrants sending our sons and daughters into war, possibly to be killed or injured. And I feel that very strongly as a military dad. I also feel it very strongly as a Virginian, because so many Virginians are already deployed or informed that they will be deployed. The Virginians connected to the Ford Carrier Strike Group, the Virginians connected to the George W. Bush Carrier Strike Group, and other units, including Virginia Guard units, are deployed into the Middle East around this mission, which I think is a bad one. Donald Trump promised he would be the guy that ended forever wars and that he wouldn't be focusing on regime change. And yet he's used the American military more in his first year plus in office than any president I'm aware of, including two wars that are clearly about regime change, Venezuela and Iran. And so what have you got in Venezuela? It was about regime change, and yet the old regime is still running the place. And in Iran, after we helped with the assassination campaign to kill the Ayatollah's son, who has lost all these family members in this war, is now in the leadership position and likely to be, because of this war, even more a hardliner than his father. I'm praying for and acting in any way I can to try to bring an end to this unwise and illegal war. We had a war powers vote last week that I had filed that fell short. But a number of my colleagues have taken up the mantle, and I'm co-sponsoring war powers resolutions they have filed that will likely ripen next week. And both through these privileged war powers motions and other strategies, we are going to continue to keep this before the Senate and before the American public. What our colleagues would like to do is not talk about this. They don't want to have votes on the floor about it, and they want any hearing about it to be unclassified so that the American public can't themselves see what is going on. But it's the American public whose sons and daughters are at risk in this war. It's the American public whose family members are often stranded in the Middle East and can't come home because we did not give people sufficient advance notice to leave. The State Department's warning to leave a number of these countries in the Middle East was only given after commercial air flights shut down. My office has been doing work with Virginians who've been stranded abroad to try to help them get home. We're going to keep taking action. The request that we've made is it's now time for public hearings for Secretary Hegseth to come before the Armed Services Committee, Marco Rubio before the Foreign Relations Committee, so that the questions that we have and the American public has can be answered in public rather than only behind closed doors, where those of us who get the information are then bound to not disclose it. So I'm sure this is going to be a topic of every weekly call that I have as long as this war is underway. My heart goes out to the families of those 7 that we lost in combat, plus an additional non-combat death that occurred in the Middle East as a result of this war. And my heart goes out to all of our troops, wishing for their safety, and to their families who are so anxious for them. The second issue I'll raise is tariffs. As you know, I led an effort in the Senate really for a year to counter President Trump's, in my view, unwise tariff policy that essentially is just raising costs for everyday families and raising costs for small businesses while shutting down markets that they rely on to sell their products. It's had a significant effect in Virginia, a significant effect nationally. After getting sufficient bipartisan votes to rebuke the president for his tariffs, we were very happy when a few weeks back the Supreme Court struck down President Trump's use of the IEEPA statute, the International Economic Emergency statute, to impose tariffs. The president should have taken that ruling as an opportunity to turn around his economic policy and not inflict these taxes on Americans. Instead, he's using another statute, the little used Section 122, to impose tariffs on every country in the world. This statute was designed for a very different purpose when there were persistent imbalance of payment issues between the U.S. currency and other currencies. It's not really about trade deficits or surpluses. It was to deal with currency issues that are not really implicated in the current state of affairs. And so it's an ill-fitting statute to use, but the president wants to keep taxing Americans for some reason, and so he's used it to impose global tariffs on every country, even those where we have trade deals, even those where we're in trade surplus, even those where we're in other alliances with them, countries that have no trade barriers to America. He's still using this tariff strategy. The tariff strategy isn't working. We had the worst job creation year last year of virtually any year in the past quarter century, except during times of deep recession. The president's job creation numbers last year were about what Joe Biden's job numbers were every month, what he averaged every month. And it's this kind of very tepid economic performance that has convinced many Americans that the president needs to focus more on the economy and prices rather than on overseas wars. Senator Raphael Warnock, a great colleague from Georgia, he and I have introduced a bill today to repeal the Section 122 tariff statute. This is the only use of it in about 50 years. And as I pointed out, it's really not right for this kind of trade situation. We've introduced a bill to repeal it and also to refund tariffs that have been collected under the statute since Donald Trump announced it. We will be seeking a hearing on that and a markup in the Finance Committee that has jurisdiction over tariff matters. We don't have Republican co-sponsors yet because I think they're a little bit afraid to cross Donald Trump, even though their constituents are telling them tariffs are deeply unpopular, quit taxing us. But we were able to get some Republican votes on my IEEPA tariff challenges, and hopefully, as we work on this bill, which is being introduced today, we'll be able to get Republicans to help us on this one as well. With that, glad to open it up and take your questions.
First up is Randy from Telemundo.
Senador, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Par de preguntas sobre el tema de Irán. Primero, ¿cuál es su preocupación en torno a la parte económica? Estamos viendo, obviamente, el tema del petróleo subir y la gasolina aquí en Estados Unidos. Y segundo, hábleme sobre el tema de por qué usted cree que es una guerra ilegal, como ha dicho.
En la economía, gente están pagando precios altos para alimentación, petróleo, casamiento, seguro de salud. Todos los precios está aumentando en el año del presidente Trump, pero especialmente ahorita los precios de energía de petróleo está aumentando rápido, creciendo rápido en Virginia y cualquier parte. Y no estamos seguros por cuánto tiempo vamos a tener este choque en la economía. Irán está cerrando algunos puertos para la exportación de petróleo. Israel está atacando la infraestructura de petróleo en el país de Irán contra el aviso de los Estados Unidos. Los Estados Unidos no está atacando la infraestructura de petróleo en Irán porque queremos un petróleo para nuestra economía y la economía de otras naciones, pero Israel está atacando esta infraestructura. Entonces es posible que el efecto en precios va a continuar por muchas semanas, muchos meses, y porque la administración no tiene un plan claro para terminando la guerra. Es difícil decir por cuánto tiempo la gente va a sufrir con esos precios altos. Segundo, yo creo que la guerra es ilegal porque la Constitución dice en una manera bien clara que no debemos tener una guerra sin voto del Congreso. Y Congreso no ha votado para una autorización para esta guerra. El presidente no está pidiendo una autorización. Mis colegas republicanos no están ofreciendo una autorización porque ellos saben que si ellos tienen un voto en eso, la mayoría va a votar no, porque nuestro pueblo, la población, es contra esta guerra. Normalmente en las 10 primeras de una guerra hay un gran apoyo de la población para la guerra. Normalmente presidentes están hablando con la población y hablando con otras naciones a ofrecer evidencia, ofrecer un grupo de razones para una guerra, pero en este momento el presidente no está tratando a convencer el público ni nuestros países que son vecinos y aliados. Y es bien importante y en este momento vamos a tener, ojalá que sí, necesitamos tener un debate en el Senado y en la Casa de Representantes. Debemos tener este debate antes de una guerra, pero el presidente ha comenzado esta guerra sin comunicación, sin autorización, pero necesitamos tener un debate ahorita porque la gente necesita entender qué son las consecuencias de las acciones del presidente.
Next, we have Charlie from ABC 30.
Hey, Charlie.
Hello, Senator. My question is, if Congress should control tariffs, what steps will you take to ensure future presidents cannot bypass Congress and raise prices on Americans like you say President Trump has?
Charlie, the trade power, this is a little bit like the war powers question that Randy just asked me. The trade power is given to Congress in the Constitution, but Congress has delegated, and these are Congress of both parties under presidents of both parties. Congress has delegated too many trade powers to the president where the president can act without Congress. I support some legislation that has been filed by colleagues of mine, including Rand Paul, that would take all these delegated powers and put a time limit on them. So, for example, if the president viewed that there was an emergency need for a tariff to deal with a particular situation, we might want the president to be able to impose a tariff, but that tariff would automatically expire within a set period of time unless Congress reauthorizes it. The statute that President Trump is using now, the Section 122, does allow the president to impose tariffs for about 5 months, but then they expire unless Congress affirmatively approves them going forward. Some statutes, I think 5 months is too long. We should shorten that. And so I support efforts to put Congress more in the mix on these tariff questions because the Constitution, as long as we're on the topic, also says no taxes can be imposed except by Congress. The president can't impose a tax on his or her own, but that's what a tariff is. A tariff is a tax imposed by a single person, the president. And, before we impose taxes, there ought to at least be a debate and vote by Congress to do it. We shouldn't allow presidents to do this on their own.
Next, we have Noah from WTKR.
Hey, Noah.
Okay, back here in the live Impact News studio, we heard Senator Kaine's opening statement, a chance to answer one question. We're going to move on to some other stories that we need to cover for now. So let's start with the Virginia General Assembly, which we have already spoken quite a bit about. We did a live listen in to the Virginia Senate as they were debating various bills earlier today. Let's talk about data centers. Data centers have come to the forefront of the decisions based around Virginia's budget. Okay, there is a vote from Virginia senators to end a projected $1.6 billion annual tax break for data center construction. That would require the industry to resume paying a minimum 5.3% sales tax. That proposal has left some opponents warning that it would bring construction of data centers in Virginia to a screeching halt altogether. Louise Lucas has been leading the charge. She is the chair of the Senate Finance Committee. She's been leading the charge to get rid of these tax breaks for data centers, and she's been using X.com as one platform through which to get her message out, including this tweet from yesterday afternoon. Let me be clear, there will not be a budget with Glenn Youngkin's data center tax breaks in it. Glenn drove up your utility bills to give tax breaks to data centers. Strong as battleship steel, I will fight for affordability for the people and encourage Governor Spanberger to join me. Now that pairs along with another tweet that I'll read for you that's from March 9th at 9:05 p.m. Governor Spanberger thinks our chicken isn't cooked. Then what is the Senate supposed to pluck out of our budget? Raises for teachers, health insurance assistant, transit support, a tax rebate, or child care slots? The governor plus the House are worried about tax breaks to big corporations. Now, we do know that the Associated Press has reported that Governor Abigail Spanberger's office said she was wary of, quote, going back on Virginia's commitments to businesses that have invested in the Commonwealth. That investment also has reportedly come with jobs from those corporations. So that is a debate that is playing out as we speak in Virginia politics surrounding the budget. Data centers at the forefront of so many stories that we've done over the past year as their construction has ramped up nationwide, including here in Virginia. Now coming to a sort of a halt here when it comes to what the next move will be in terms of tax rates for the construction of those data centers right here in this state. We'll continue to keep you updated as we move forward on that story. Now, let's continue to move right along here, hitting as many stories as we can. I want to check in with Nia Campbell. We've got rapidly developing stories as we speak, one of which is the MEAC tournament. Now, do we want to go MEAC tournament now, Nia? Are we ready to take on that story?
No, let's not get to the MEAC just yet.
Not MEAC just yet. Now, we have a couple of other things we can get to. I'm going to defer to you here because I know that you have, as I've been speaking, you've been laying out an itinerary here. Where would you like to go next, Nia?
We can go several different ways. We can talk about the Oscars.
Okay.
That's coming up.
Let's.
We can talk the Palm Beach cold case.
Okay, and the power has just gone out once again here at 13 News Now. I do not know if we are still live. The last time this happened, we went off the air very briefly. You can see right here just looking at me that the power went down. This is the second time in about 45 minutes the power has gone off here at 13 News Now. It's possible that I'm just talking into the darkness because we do not know. The power's coming back on. Are we back on air? We'll learn that information from our digital team before long. But let's defer back to what Nia Campbell was speaking about, and let's go ahead and play some of that sound on the Oscars, the Academy Awards, the most significant night in Hollywood, really, in many ways, the most prestigious awards given out in the world of cinema each and every single year. They're going to air right here on ABC on Sunday night. They're going to be hosted by Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien speaking today during a sort of pre-Oscars event, and I believe, are we going to try to find, it looks like if we could put this video up here, Nia, he's sort of posing for the cameras. Conan O'Brien, of course, a veteran of Hollywood, a veteran of hosting these massive award shows, and he seems right at home with the assembled press here as he prepares to host the Oscars. But we do have sound from Conan O'Brien, right? He did speak earlier today.
Yeah, he's going to speak right after this.
Okay. Is there any way, as much as I am enjoying Conan O'Brien being Conan O'Brien here, is there any way that we could kind of fast forward to that? You can go ahead and pull me back up for the time being. We're going to go through that footage and find where his actual interview begins. Again, the Oscars coming up, the movie Sinners from Ryan Coogler, one of the most successful young directors we have ever had in Hollywood with the most nominations in the history of the Academy Awards. Now, Sinners is primarily in competition with One Battle After Another for that coveted Best Picture prize. One Battle After Another, a movie from director Paul Thomas Anderson. Once upon a time, Paul Thomas Anderson was that young director who was already one of the most successful in Hollywood. Both also nominated for Best Director, both also nominated for their writing. Paul Thomas Anderson for adapted screenplay, and Ryan Coogler for original screenplay. And it looks like we have that Conan O'Brien interview right now. Let's take a listen in on what the former late night talk show host has to say ahead of hosting the Oscars. Of course, we will get to coverage of the MEAC tournament kicking off here in Norfolk this week. First, Conan O'Brien.
After a race, I take before the Oscars.
Because you look very relaxed there, no nerves.
I'm a little too relaxed, some might say.
Okay.
Yeah, and where are you from?
We're from the UK.
Oh, I love the UK.
Okay, well, we love you too.
Well, I'm not sure of that, but we'll find out.
Well, okay.
What are you most excited about? You did it last year. What are you trying to do this year?
Yeah, well, this year we're going to go maybe a little more ambitious with some things. Last year there was a lot of, the fires and things like that. I was living out of a hotel. So this year I'm hoping to get, we have some slightly bigger swings that we're going to take this year.
Are there big surprises this year?
I hope so. I hope so.
There's a lot of people to pay tribute to as well, though, isn't there?
Pardon me?
It's been a very difficult year in terms of the big names that have been lost in Hollywood.
Yes, yeah.
So that must be a big part of the show.
It's going to be a big part of the show.
Are you going to make any comments about the war?
Well, you'll have to tune in and see. That's right. I'm using what's happening in the news to get people to watch the Oscars.
Is anyone off
And
limits?
that's a new low.
Is anyone off limits?
I mean, I don't think about those things. I just try and think about what would be funny, what would work, and what would be appropriate for the ceremony, and then I go with that.
Are you allowed to say which was your favourite film of the year?
I thought I gave an amazing performance in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
Absolutely.
And I think I was incredible. I think I was snubbed by the Academy. Very hurt about that. Thank you. That was my dad. I'll say this about, I think this is the best crop of movies that I can think of in a bunch of years. I mean, it's amazing. And they're all so different. You've got a Sinners, and then which is spectacular, and then you've got One Battle After Another. You've got Marty Supreme. You've got Begonia. F1 is a completely different kind of movie, but it was really fun. I mean, I don't know. It's a fireworks display.
We've
this
got our
year.
British hopeful, which is Hamlet.
Hamnet, of course, which rips off Hamlet, I believe. It really does. It's the whole end of that movie is Hamlet. No, that's a spectacular movie. It's a great movie. Insane performances. So, you can't go wrong this year. Really great. And then also things like K-pop, Demon Hunters, which is a whole different kind of audience that is bringing in. So, I am, as a movie fan, I was really excited to be part of it this year. Because I watched all these movies without being made to. These are just great movies. Some years are like, you better watch them all. But this, I just wanted to see them all.
Yeah, we all want a good year for cinema, don't we?
What's that?
We all want a good year for cinema and the big screen.
Yes, I think we had it this year. So.
Is Barbara Streisand going to sing?
Thank you, Conan.
Oh yes, hi. How are you?
Hi there. So what have you got prepared for us on Sunday? What can we expect?
Expect the
Okay, there is Conan O'Brien speaking about the Oscars that he'll be hosting on Sunday, and mentioning how the crop of movies this year spectacular. And again, Sinners and One Battle After Another appear poised to sort of dominate the night. Who will take home the top prize remains to be seen. Two of the best directors that we have had this century, undoubtedly, in Paul Thomas Anderson and Ryan Coogler. Leonardo DiCaprio and Michael B. Jordan both nominated for Best Actor from those movies as well. Now we're going to show you imagery here of a small plane crash in Upland, California. We don't have a lot of details, but it's a type of video, it's an image that you really do not see very often. A plane that appears to be turned upside down kind of crashed into the side of a small hill there, or an embankment. They've zoomed out a couple times. It looks like there's a runway directly in front of where that plane crashed, but we can't say for sure because we have not gotten that information specifically. That's what it looks like. And see, doesn't that look like a runway over there to the left? Well, it looks like our camera has kind of gone haywire here a little bit. We apologize for that. That was sort of a drastic turn, but hopefully everyone is okay. We don't have any information about how anyone is doing from that particular plane crash. If the imagery goes back to the plane that is sort of turned up there right in front of that runway, right on that little embankment or hill, then we'll go back to that, just because you don't see that very often. It was pretty startling to see. We have no idea, no updates on the condition of the pilot or any passengers, but We wanted to show that because it just came across our live feed, though it appears as though this helicopter with the camera that ABC uses is headed elsewhere. So we will head elsewhere as well. Now, we can cover the MEAC, but we're still looking to get that video. Is that correct, Naya? Okay, we're still looking to get our video and our interviews all set up for coverage of the MEAC basketball tournament that's right here at the Scope every year. The MEAC, of course, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference that's home to Norfolk State, that's home to Howard University, that's home to South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, a fantastic conference that is so competitive every year that Norfolk State men and women's basketball has totally dominated for the last 4 or 5 years, but this year it's a little more up for grabs. And also one of the most fun times to be in downtown Norfolk, to be at the Scope. It really is so much more than just a basketball tournament. It feels like a true community event. We're going to get to a preview of that as soon as we get a chance here. Instead, we're going to go to a press conference that was held earlier today about a cold case that was reopened involving a missing girl. The disappearance occurred in 1984. It was a case that had gone cold. It has now been reopened. We're going to listen to this press conference from law enforcement authorities and see what they have to say about perhaps why this case has been reopened, and they're once again looking into the disappearance of Christy, an 8-year-old when she disappeared in 1984, Christy Luna. Let's take a listen.
He applied for early release in 2016 because he was terminally ill. And of course he was denied, and he died later in 2016. So presently, he is a person of interest. We want to learn more about him. I know it's a long time ago. People, friends, neighbors, witnesses that day who think maybe they saw him, please come forward. Presently, there's no physical or testimonial evidence that links Williams to Christie's disappearance. I'm going to introduce Detective Springer, and he has a few comments, and we'll open it up for questions.
Well, you can do your questions first, and then I'll give you my comments when we're over. Anybody have any questions?
Detective Springer, when you got this tip from these people who had been discussing this guy and his possible connection, did they indicate why they waited so long to come forward, or what sparked them to finally come forward?
Well, people have different reasons, and I really don't dwell on why they didn't come forward, okay? I want people to come forward. I'm not going to question why you didn't come forward because I don't care. My job is to find Christy, not to judge people because they didn't come forward. And I just want somebody to come forward is what I'm looking for. So if you got information and you've been sitting on it for 30 years, 40 years, I don't care. Bring it out and we'll look at it, see what we can do with it.
Also, did they say, though, what sparked it? It wasn't one of your promises, or what suddenly made them?
I don't know. They just saw the last press conference, and I thought, okay, let's come forward. I guess that's what the reason is.
So does this rule out the other suspects?
Does it rule out? No. I'll go through the list of suspects, and they're still good suspects. There's Willis Rambo, who is now incarcerated in the Department of Corrections in Florida. His brother, Charles Rambo, who was living in Tennessee. Victor Winetti, who's now deceased, along with William Ferris and Warren Williams. But they're all good suspects. So if you got information on anybody, or if you got somebody new, we'll look at them and we'll do what we need to do.
What about Groff, the one you brought up last year?
I can't put him anywhere close to Green Acres or South Florida. And he's kind of just hanging out there. But he's still, if somebody's got something on him, I'll be interested in that too.
Your official title. Okay, Sonia Stills, Commissioner of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, the MEAC.
They're all good people. We all thought Willis and Chuck was great at first. We still think Willis and Chuck look good. Winetti looked good because he was up in New Hampshire. Tammy Belanger went missing. At the same time, he's up there. So, yeah, he's still a good suspect. William Ferris lived right behind Christie. So he's a good suspect. He turned into a child molester. I don't know if he molested back in the early days, but in his latter days, he was molesting kids.
And what about you undertook once you got the lead on him. The circumstances y'all are describing sounds like he could be a very viable suspect. Could you go over those again? What makes you think that he's good?
He's in the area. He's a child molester. And my investigation shows so far, and they haven't come forward, but information was that he had been molesting children way in the past. Nobody's ever come forward. So if you're a victim of this gentleman, I'd like to know, and I'd like to know if he said anything to you and what he said. I know that he possibly has some connections in Connecticut that we're still looking at. There's a lot of investigation that still needs to be completed.
And that day of Christie's disappearance, could you go over again why the suspicions were raised, what he was doing that day and subsequently?
I don't quite understand it. I know that the people said that he was in Green Acres that day, that he was working at a house, that sometime in the afternoon he left to go get a pack of cigarettes and never came back. And then this pad comes up in the backyard. Could be all circumstantial.
I know we keep on saying that somebody has to know something. Is there any sort of message you want to give the community?
Listen, I'm going to tell you what Jenny called me last night, Christy's mom. And, you know, she's gone to bed every night since 1984, May 27th, wondering what happened to Christy. And she said, would you please tell them that if somebody knows something, please come forward before I die, because I want to bring my daughter home. So if somebody knows something, give us a call. Okay?
Anything else? Did you want to read a statement?
Do you have anything?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions on this subject?
Unless there's something we haven't hit that y'all wanted to bring out.
No.
No.
We're interested in this gentleman, Willis and Chuck Rambo, and Ferris, and Victor Winetti.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Terry. Since we're done with this, just one more case we talked about as of this morning. The arrest was made last night. You guys are probably aware of, in 2024, in October, a female was found on the side of the road, on Lyons Road, between Lantana and Hypoluxo Road, bloodied and deceased. The medical exam, determined that she was murdered. It was absolutely a homicide. And again, just like with this case, luckily we have an arrest. After 14 months of working diligently, our detectives from the Violent Crimes Division were able to establish a suspect and obtain an arrest warrant for him and bring him to justice. Just to show you that we keep working cases no matter how old they are. We all know there's no statute of limitation on homicide, so all our cold cases, including recent cases of yesterday or 50 years ago, we're going to work them. With that, I have Captain Michael Ott from the Violent Crimes Division is going to provide you some updates on this arrest and how it came about. Thank you.
Hello, I am Captain Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Ott, O-T-T. I'm the captain of the Violent Crimes Division. And as the colonel said, and as you saw from the Christy Luna case, there is, with information from the community, there's nothing we won't do. We dug up and excavated an entire yard in this case, dug up a concrete pad in the backyard. There's nothing that we won't do with the information you give us and track it down. And there are no limits on time. An example of that is the case in the arrest yesterday of Rene Perez. I know a lot of people have asked about that, so I'm going to read a quick statement about that arrest from yesterday. On October 18, 24, at about 10:20 p.m., the sheriff's office started receiving several 911 calls about a female in the roadway in the 6,000 block of Lyons Road in western Lake Worth Boynton area. That's going to be on Lyons Road between Lantana Road and Hypoluxo. Callers called 911 and said there was an unresponsive female laying in the roadway near a white Chevy Tahoe. The caller indicated that she was there on Lyons Road. Deputies and fire rescue were immediately dispatched to the scene and were there in minutes. Sadly, when the deputies and fire rescue advised, they found Miss Linda Campitelli there, and she was deceased on scene. Detectives from the Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit and forensic investigators from the Palm Beach County Medical Examiner's Office responded to the scene along with the Sheriff's Office crime scene. And they were there. We had to shut down the road for a period of time. They were there for an extended period of time. Their initial findings were that Mrs. Campitelli's injuries were consistent with blunt force trauma. She was then transported to the Palm Beach County Medical Examiner's Office, where a forensic examination was done. And along with that examination and the Sheriff's Office information that we had, the case was ruled a homicide. Detectives began working on that case in October 2024 and haven't stopped. But during the course of that investigation that culminated yesterday, they conducted comprehensive video canvasses, interviewed countless witnesses, collected numerous pieces of forensic evidence throughout the investigation, authored more than 50 search warrants in reference to this case, and analyzed hundreds and hundreds of hours of cell phone data and did analytical work on all the cell phones that are involved. Through the course of that investigation, detectives came in contact and identified Mr. Rene, R-E-N-E, Perez, P-E-R-E-Z, as a potential suspect in this case. This past week, through the investigation, on Monday, an arrest warrant was signed by a Palm Beach County judge charging Mr. Perez with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. On Tuesday, he was taken into custody by our federal partners at the United States Marshal Service in Miami. He was transported to the Palm Beach County Jail, where he is now housed here. As soon as he was arrested, detectives met with and spoke with the Campitelli family, informing them of the arrest. And I just want to highlight, again, the number of hours and teamwork that went into this case and led to this. And ultimately, just like with the Christy Luna case, though not every case, unfortunately, will be successful and will be able to make an arrest, we're never going to stop. This team will never stop working these open homicide investigations. With that, I will take a couple of limited questions if you have any. So the evidence suggests that Mr. Perez and Ms. Campitelli knew each other for an extended period of time. They used to work together previously. They had an ongoing friendship.
Is there any particular reason it took a few years to make an arrest?
The cell phone analytical work. So with technology, our investigations have changed drastically over the last 11 years. I've been part of this group. And the cell phone analytical work takes a lot of time. And there was one specific key piece of evidence that just had not been identified until recently through that analytical work. Remember that it's not, when you were working with electronics and things of that nature, there's a lot of dependencies, not just on what we can do, but what different providers give us and the timeline for which we get that information. So we write search warrants. As I said, there was over 50 search warrants authored in this case. And we're dependent upon those people to be responsive to those search warrants. So all these things just take time.
What was that key piece of evidence?
It ended up being a cell phone.
That was connected to him?
One in particular that was connected to him. Yeah.
Can you be at all more specific about how the friendship turned into something like this? I mean, what connects that to killing someone like that?
I don't have an answer to that question. Mr. Perez has not given us a statement. Again, I just want to highlight all the hard work of the Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit. No case gets shelved. There is no statute of limitations, as the Colonel said. Any information, if there's any further information into the Ms. Campitelli's, any other witnesses that were on Lyons Road in that area, we still want to talk to you. Just because an arrest is made doesn't mean the investigation's over. We're always looking for more information on this case, the Christy Luna case, and any of our open cold case investigations. Thank you.
Just to add one more thing, if Detective Springer mentioned and Captain Ott, if you don't want to call us directly with Crime Stoppers, always anonymous, you can call, remain anonymous, receiving a reward for your call. You don't have to give your name, phone number, anything like that, and we'll gladly take that information. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
All right, welcome back into Live Impact News. That cold case reopened as they attempt to find justice for the 8-year-old who disappeared in 1984. We are going to take a quick commercial break. When we get back, we're going to talk MEAC tournament as we wrap the show. Hello and welcome back to Live Impact News. It is a massively crowded time on the sports calendar in general. Let's talk about this. The World Baseball Classic is happening right now, ostensibly like the World Cup of baseball. The United States actually upset by Italy last night, a massive, massive upset, one of the biggest in the history of that tournament. The United States' fate now in Mexico and Italy's hands as they hope to make the quarterfinals with some luck from that other matchup. So that happening right now, the World Baseball Classic. It coincides with spring training as the MLB is about to get started. Of course, the NFL draft is approaching. It's NFL free agency right now. Max Crosby traded to the Baltimore Ravens from the Las Vegas Raiders for 2 first-round picks a few days ago. Last night, the Ravens backing out of that trade, reportedly after a physical that showed some things about Max Crosby that they were not comfortable with in terms of his health. That a story that you don't see very often, especially with trades that big. The NBA, of course, in the midst of their stretch run before the postseason begins in May and April, and then the finals in June. Last night, Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat had 84 points in a game. That's the second most ever in the history of the NBA, behind only Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points. It's more than Kobe Bryant's 81 points all those years ago against the Toronto Raptors. 84 points for Bam Adebayo. That is not who you would have expected if someone told you that 80 points were going to be scored by a player this season. In fact, he's not in the top 30 of players that you would have guessed to score that many points in a game this season, maybe more. So the sports calendar, extremely crowded right now. But center stage in March, always, is March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament. And leading up to March Madness are conference tournaments. Now, unfortunately, Virginia Tech lost last night to Wake Forest, very, very likely ending their NCAA tournament dreams. But there are plenty of Virginia schools that are still alive, including both the men's and women's teams at Norfolk State. Now, in years past, Robert Jones and the men's team, Larry Vickers and the women's team, over the course of the last half decade, have been the dominant force in the MEAC conference. The women's team last season, one of the best the conference has ever seen, maybe the best women's basketball team in the history of the conference. Larry Vickers has since moved on to Auburn University, but that Norfolk State women's basketball team still very strong. 11-3 in conference this year. That is tied for second in the conference with Maryland Eastern Shore behind 13-1 Howard. But in order to make that NCAA tournament, Norfolk State will have to win the MEAC. Their first game this weekend for the Norfolk State women's team. Remember, it's both the men's and women's side that are at the MEAC in the same weekend. I'm telling you, it is a remarkably entertaining tournament. Tomorrow, Thursday at 2:00 p.m., Norfolk State versus Morgan State, first round of the women's tournament. What about on the men's side? Robert Jones is still there. He's become one of the most successful coaches in MEAC history with multiple NCAA tournament appearances. Well, Norfolk State this year, third in the MEAC standings, 8-6 in conference. A slight step back, but it's only a step back from what was an incredible run as the dominant team in the conference. Still very much alive to take that conference tournament title and advance to the NCAA tournament. Losing 2 games to end the season to Morgan State and Howard, the 2 teams that were ahead of them. So Norfolk State was very much in line for a shot at first place. They lose their last 2 games to the only 2 teams in front of them. Now they have to make up for it in this tournament. And their first game in this tournament will be tomorrow at 6:00 p.m. against South Carolina State. All at the Scope, all day long. If you go to the Scope starting in the early afternoon, you can watch basketball all the way through the night. Different teams, different programs. It is fantastic, and the energy in the building, especially as you get into those primetime Norfolk State games, is through the roof. So let's listen to an interview right now about the upcoming MEAC tournament.
So first of all, how many years has Norfolk hosted the MEAC tournament here? This is the 14th year. Yeah, it's been a long time. The conference has grown here, and Norfolk is so welcoming. You know, when you drive down like Granby or Monticello, it's MEAC time, and so it's a great place to be. No, absolutely. I mean, honestly, to see all the commerce that this generates and the tourism. I mean, talk about that and the impact that it has here in Norfolk, and seeing how many people across the country come here for this. Man, you know, this is like a homecoming. This is family. And all the MEAC nations coming here to celebrate, to look at some good Division I basketball and see who rises to the top of HBCU Division I basketball. So it's really tremendous to have everybody come together and celebrate the talent that we have on the court. Absolutely. And I know it goes without being said, but I mean, seeing the amount of HBCUs being together in one place so that Norfolk gets to be the host for that. I mean, what does that say for the community around here that continues to welcome these teams and these young athletes every time? It's big. It's to have this type of city with so much to do, so much history, and just to get the culture of what Norfolk is, the Mermaid City, you know, it's tremendous. And like I said, the community is so welcoming. The way that we engage with the community, with our community service, with Read with the MEAC, our celebration that we had at Larchmont Elementary yesterday, and of course today the college fair. So we want to be able to bring the elements of our Elite 8 member institutions here, and so that hopefully we can have more than 1 million students from the city of Norfolk to come to our Elite 8 member institutions. Obviously, you know, for people that this might be their first time experiencing this, and we have a few more days of the tournament, what do they need to know? Where do they go for all that information? So, they want some great Division I basketball, visit Ticketmaster or MEACHoops.com. Get all your information. We have events, parties, R&B block party is on Saturday night. We got the Fan Fest on Saturday morning. So come enjoy. We have our Hall of Fame. We're inducting 5 individuals in on Thursday morning. So just come be a part of our homecoming. Do you think you have anything else? I think that's all I need for you. The only thing is, if you want to give back to HBCUs, or most importantly to the MEAC, we have a MEAC Foundation. Go to meacfoundation.org to give back. If you don't give back to us, give back to an HBCU.
All right, fantastic. A celebration of Norfolk, a celebration of HBCUs. Get down to the Scope if you have time this weekend and late this week. Now, to finish off our show, President Donald Trump visiting Thermo Fisher Scientific Incorporated in Cincinnati. Speaking right now, let's listen in and see what the president has to say.
and you have done a fantastic job, and I'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you. It's the colleagues' work.
See the colleagues. Talks about it himself. It's a new form of physics. He said before, my associates, my colleagues, what about people that just work for you? No, right? They're colleagues.
25 years
That's
of
why he's
working
doing
together.
That's why he's doing so well. Congratulations. Great company. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great honor. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Gentlemen, we thought it would just be good to introduce some of our best
Sure, let's go.
People in our team and have you have a chance to say hello to
Well,
each of them.
let me have a picture with them. How about
Yeah,
that?
that's great.
Come on, Peter, take a picture. Come on. Let's go. Let me get alongside of some really good-looking people. All right, let's go. There you go. This guy here, Pulitzer Prize.
Okay, so there is President Trump visiting Thermo Fisher Scientific Incorporated in Cincinnati this afternoon. Not many comments, no comment that we heard on the war in Iran, but doing other things, obviously, today, visiting that particular corporation. We, of course, did a full-scale update on the war in Iran earlier today, and we also heard from Senator Tim Kaine extensively about updates on that war as well as comments on tariffs. Obviously, that coverage, we're in that 12th day of the war with Iran. The United States and Israel, again, at war with Iran, that 12th day. We talked about how the death toll continues to rise. Tragedy throughout that region in the world as that war continues for those communities and those families who have been so nearly and dearly impacted. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left in this stream. We have covered an immense amount of topics today, from the MEAC tournament to the Oscars, again to the war, to the Virginia General Assembly, to cold cases that have been reopened, and to Virginia budgets and national oil prices. We have covered so many different topics. It has been a very busy day, a very busy week so far. We sit here at this midway point, and I want to just very quickly here make sure that we really emphasize what Norfolk State has accomplished on the basketball court recently. Because again, that MEAC tournament kicking off this week in Norfolk, and the Spartans have dominated that tournament in recent years. Let's start with the women's team. Okay, Larry Vickers taking over the team in 2016-17 season. Let's go over just the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, Larry Vickers' team won the regular season and the conference tournament all 3 years, 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances. And in their last season with Larry Vickers as the coach, that would be last year, the team went 30-5. They were undefeated in MEAC play, one of the great teams in the history of that conference, and they gave Maryland a run for their money in the first round of the NCAA tournament. The year before that, 27-6, they went to the NCAA tournament. In that first round, they squared off against Stanford, and they tried their very best to give Stanford a run for their money in that game early on. The year before that, NCAA tournament, their first one in years, they played the vaunted South Carolina and Dawn Staley, and they ended up losing by 32, but they had moments where they were taking on South Carolina head-to-head, no fear, and it was incredibly impressive to watch. As we know, Larry Vickers moved on to Auburn University, but Norfolk State this season, third in the MEAC, looking to make it 4 straight NCAA tournaments. An incredible run for the Norfolk State University women's basketball team. As for the men's team, Robert Jones has been there since the 13-14 season. Over the course, not this season included, but the 5 seasons before that, 4-time regular season champions, 3-time conference tournament champions, 3 NCAA tournament appearances for Robert Jones. Robert Jones, as the coach, has now won 5 regular season MEAC championships, 3 conference tournament championships, 3 NCAA tournament appearances for Robert Jones, one of the great coaches in the history of that university. An incredible run for Norfolk State basketball, both on the men's and women's side. They go into the MEAC this year in slightly different situations, each finishing in that 3rd place slot or tied for 3rd place, tied for 2nd place in the MEAC. And so now they got to go win a tournament as the underdogs to try and make sure that they can continue those NCAA tournament streaks. But still, it is worth mentioning how good those teams have been at Norfolk State over the course of the last couple years. And again, we cannot encourage enough to get down to the Scope and enjoy that tournament. And St. Patrick's Day is next Tuesday. It's essentially St. Patrick's Day weekend. Saturday and Sunday are going to be in the 60s. Saturday going to be absolutely beautiful. Please, if you can, if you're able to, if you want to, get out and enjoy the holiday. Enjoy your community. Enjoy the sunshine. Soak it all in. Because as much as each and every single day we have to go through stories that are incredibly difficult to digest, difficult to understand, and elicit so many different emotions, we also are able to, lucky enough to, on a weekend like this, go outside and enjoy just the outdoors, our loved ones, the festivities that are there to offer, potentially make new friends, hang out with old friends, whatever it is that you're able to do and that you want to do. Please live this weekend up to the fullest, live the rest of this week up to the fullest, because it really is going to be a beautiful St. Paddy's Day weekend here in Hampton Roads. And there is a look at the Virginia Beach oceanfront to really hammer home that point that we're making about how wonderful looking it is outside. This program will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. And you can join us on 13 News Now at 4 o'clock p.m. But that'll do it for live Impact News here on this Wednesday afternoon. We can't tell you how much we appreciate everybody hanging with us. 2 power outages today on top of all those stories. Thanks so much for joining live Impact News. We'll see you next time.